Everybody on Facebook and YouTube, and thanks for your company here. Good morning, Roisin.
Good morning, Father. Good morning, all.
Welcome. She has her lovely new knitted Gansey on her. Have a look on Facebook and YouTube. It's your own pattern, your own design.
Yes, yes. We'll have the collection of different molds, Father.
Is it a way of using up sort of leftover
Yes,
bits and
exactly,
pieces?
yeah.
Oh, okay. That's handy, that's handy. But it has to be the same 4-ply wool or whatever, doesn't it?
Well, and it should, but it's not, because this one here is a bit lighter than the others, you know.
I see.
But when it's all mixed in together, it doesn't really...
It doesn't matter.
No.
And if it's washing or anything, will one lot shrink differently to the other?
No. Because they're only like they're very seldom. Yeah, there's only 2 lines difference, you know.
Very good. So up and down the sleeves in the front now, for those who can't see it on YouTube now on Facebook, they're blue, navy blue, I suppose, cuffs and lines up along. But in between is a light. What would you call that? A kind of a cyan blue or something.
And
then in between,
a mixture of colours.
A mixture of like this 4 or 5 or 6 different colours. There's pink and brown and orange and yellow and
that's all in the one ball of wool.
Yeah, all right, okay, fantastic. And it's your own design out of your own head, you say?
Yes,
as well.
Oh yes. It's all out of my head, Father. I haven't got anything to go by, so I just do it.
And you know how many stitches to...
But Father, if you've been knitting since I've been knitting, you know how to do it, you know.
And do you have to count them all now, the stitches as well? Do you have to do that now?
Well, I'm putting them on. I'm just putting it up now. No, I'm knitting another one at the minute, Father, for my daughter-in-law.
Go on.
And she's... Don't say big, but she's big.
Yes.
So
she's of a larger size, maybe. Yes.
So I have to put a lot on for that.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Great.
I'm doing it all out of my head, 2 different designs.
Very good. So very creative and a natural talent. Good. Because I don't know if the knitting is as popular nowadays as it was in days gone by.
I say not, Father, but because I'm kind of confined to barracks with this leg.
Oh, the bad knee.
Yes.
Please God, they'll fix that for you. Yes.
So it's quite enjoyable to sit and knit rather than sit and do nothing, you know.
Do nothing, yes. And you can do a bit of listening to Radio Maria or EWTN or whatever your favourite.
Yeah, exactly. And the grandsons have all got jumpers and cars too.
They're all well kitted out for the next winter.
And the young boys are not that fond of knitted jumpers, are they?
No, they wouldn't be. They might be a bit hairy and a bit uncomfortable. Yes. Anyway, it's a great gift to have. And if you want to watch us here on Facebook, YouTube, check out the video. Maybe later, if you don't have time to do it now as well, you can see. And Roisin will give you any knitting tips that you need.
Very simple to do, Father. Plain and pearl.
Plain and pearl, that's it. Right. But the ribbing is slightly different, isn't it? It's a different way.
Oh, it's a double. Knit 2 and then pearl 2, knit 2, pearl 2. You know?
I see. Okay.
And then just do plain all along. And just change the different molds as you're going along. But I'll teach you, Father.
But no, listen, the one of the tricks is actually the tension. And, you know, having consistent float with it. Otherwise, like the knots would be all over the place.
Yeah,
Same crochet.
The thing is now, when you're joining up the different balls and different colours, leave a gap of the wool. Like I didn't cut it now and join it up every time. Just leave a gap, and then when you're stitching it together, just make sure that it's stitched on the inside rather than shown on the outside, like there.
Okay.
There's a little bit coming through.
Oh, little small mistake. Yeah. Great, very good. Anyway, mighty talent to have. Great. In full Technicolor, Joseph and his Technicolor dream coat today.
I hope I'm like Joseph.
That's right. So now jump in on the conversation with us today. We'll chat about a few things with you here. Our saint of the day, St. Francis of Paola. Yes. Today, we'll chat about him and maybe what's going on in the world a little bit too. Maybe Easter coming up as it is. So if anybody wants to get in touch with us, Roisin.
Yes, you can telephone Thomas downstairs. 014123456, and then again if you're outside of Ireland or if you're north of Ireland, it's +353 14123456, or you can text at WhatsApp I should say, at 089 467 2000, and outside of Ireland again it's +353 894 67 2000, or then again you can email at info@radiomaria.ie. And if you like to write a nice little letter, you can post it to Radio Maria Ireland, St. Anthony's Business Park, Ballymount Road, Dublin 22. It was actually D22 or 7W2.
There you are.
That's it.
There's a mouthful. I get your hand around that and scribble it all down. You probably all know much of that off by heart by now if you're regulars here, but to anybody who's new, and there are all the details there. You can find all that on our website, social media channels too, if you'd like to like, share, follow and subscribe on any of those. Now, Dolores sent in a message a little earlier, Roisin. She's a bit worried about the census, tomorrow's census day.
Yes.
You fill up my census, isn't that John Denver?
Oh, yeah.
You fill up my census. The little joke going around was, where's John Denver when you need him?
And it's huge. Did you see it, Father?
It's a bit of a document. It's a bit of a document. But I think most of it is if you have more than one person in the house. If you have a household, like there's 6 different persons, let's say, that you can fill in details for if you have that many in your house.
Right.
If it's only the one, it's just the one section for the one person, and that's it.
That's it. Very good.
And what Dolores was asking, I brought this up before, that in the section where it asks you to state your religious beliefs, that the first in the list isn't Catholicism, which is most certainly the predominant religion here in Ireland. Rather, it's no religion.
No religion?
Yeah, that's first. If you look at the question, that's the first one. And Dolores has a point. She says she's just a bit, put out by that. And she quotes sacred scriptures. She's right too, where the Lord says, if you don't declare me before others, before men, I won't declare you before the Father. And so those who would say, tick that box, no religion, again, is that a denial of the Christianity that perhaps they have been brought up in, because it's still the case. And speaking to a couple of priests lately, how the confirmations have been in full swing of late. That many of the boys and girls in school, with some exceptions, but most will still receive the sacrament of confirmation and of course First Communion. And so he's one of the priests I was speaking to. He said, well, whether they come back again is another question, but he's administering the sacrament in faith, really, and they want to have it, which is good. That's I wouldn't refuse if they sincerely desire to receive the sacrament. But as Dolores is suggesting there, if would they be the ones ticking the box or not?
It's very sad, Father, because if mums and dads are not going to Mass, and not the children don't know any different. That's the sad thing about it, and really and truly, for myself, I couldn't have lived without God in my life, so I don't know how people are managing to do it without Him, because it's just so dreadful things happening out there. So many evil things happening in the world, with these awful bombings and children being thrown out of homes, and it's just unbelievable, Father. So the prayer is needed. Very badly needed.
And a return to faith, which would be a return to peace.
Oh, absolutely,
and to communion, as we're called to live. So, it is interesting, Dolores. It'll be interesting to read the statistics anyway when they come back. Sociologically, it is interesting, that if the father goes to church, given that the mother, let's say, is practicing, but if the father doesn't practice, it's less likely that the children will keep practicing. If the father does go to Mass, if he does make some little, there's a far greater likelihood that the children will stay faithful.
It's true, Father. That's very true.
Interesting.
But please God, it will change, Father, because it's so sad to see that the church is empty,
Yes, and no, I'm not certain, but I understood that this Easter is when things will be, the expectation will be that people will return to Mass again on Sundays.
Yes.
I think that's coming up.
Yes, it's opened, I saw that, Father.
Yeah, so again, we'd encourage all our dear listeners and friends, if you are one of those who's, again, a little bit anxious about returning to church, don't be. Just simply go. I mean, I've been in umpteen churches now where they've kind of taken away all the little tape and the signs, and they still have sanitizer and so on, and people can still wear masks and so on and be at a distance. But we're back on public transport, we're back doing a lot of things now, so there's no reason at all to be worried about coming back to church. And we're discovering indeed that the effect of the virus, it's not as serious as was first. It's a nasty bug. I wouldn't wish on anybody. I've had my own share of it now at this stage, but keep yourself healthy and well, and don't be too anxious. Don't let it kind of, the way like the flu or any of these other things that we might be afraid of getting, don't let that.
I know, don't let it take over your life. I mean, put your trust in God, Father. I mean, as you do, and He'll carry you through.
Sure, that you can't be staying indoors and knitting all day, even though that's great to be.
No. Oh, well, I go to Mass every day, which is great.
You do,
Father.
and you come here, Roisin, which is more to the point too, which is good too.
It's great to go to Mass.
So do please, and again, Dolores, it'll be interesting to see, but I wouldn't be too worried about the census forms. They're kind of statistical, and they're useful insofar as they are. But what God looks to is to the heart.
Ah, yes.
That's the key thing. So whatever the result might happen to be, it'll be telling, and it'll be interesting. But that should energize us all the more to reach out to people and to get them thinking about their faith and returning to their faith.
Absolutely, Father. I mean, the Irish people have a great tradition of being very close to God, so down through the centuries.
And
so don't let your ancestors down.
Correct, and I maintain all the while it's not that far under the surface. It just takes the right ingredients, or maybe the right encounter. Because when you meet somebody of faith, or you get into a circle of friends that are faith-filled, that can be a little prompt. It can be or a moment of crisis comes, and again, faith can step in where we didn't realize it was, it was as important as we thought, and all of a sudden our priorities change, and we realize, well, maybe I should be giving more attention to this.
Oh yes, it's so helpful, Father, to know that God is there looking after you, and you're not to be worried. Just put your faith and your love into God's hands, and He looks after you, and He does. And
there's a little place on the census form which I encourage you to fill in. What it's called the time capsule.
Oh.
It's only a tiny little space at the back, but I'm tempted to put in a little bit about the state of faith. I want to give a mention to the Holy Father's consecration of Russia and Ukraine and the world to the Immaculate Heart, and that I would hope whoever's reading it in 100 years' time will be experiencing, or will have experienced, the triumph of the Immaculate Heart and the era of peace that she promised.
That's it, yes, absolutely.
So
Fatima.
I might make a note of that in my little capsule, capsule thing.
Absolutely.
And pray indeed that there is peace in it. And I might put a sneaky little footnote in there maybe too, that Radio Maria will be going strong in 100 years.
Yeah, I'd say so, twice as many, Father.
Celebrating the centenary of Radio Maria. Who will be at the mixing desk then?
I hope we'll be all up in heaven looking down.
We'll all be up in heaven looking down, and our great-grandnieces, our great-grandchildren maybe might be at the mixing desk.
Please God.
A Tara the Third maybe at the mixing desk. Or whoever. So that's my hope anyway. So I wouldn't be too unduly worried at all, Dolores there. Nice message from Marie. She's praying for us all and all priests at Knock at the moment. They're on a little pilgrimage there. She missed our Leitrim meeting there.
Yes, I saw that, Father, yes. Oh, she's fantastic, lassie, she is.
Fair play to Marie now. She's a great go-getter. So, and no doubt she'll be promoting Radio Maria while she's up in Knock there as well too, So very good. Our saint for today is St. Francis of Paola, or I'm pronouncing that all wrong. Paola. Paola, is it?
Yeah.
He's a founder of the Franciscan Minim Friars. I don't know much about the Minim Friars, but born in Calabria, which is Italy, of course. He lived in a neighbouring Franciscan friary for a year when he was 13, so as a young boy, and went on pilgrimage to Assisi and Rome, and then became a hermit near his hometown in a cave overlooking the sea. So he was born in 1416, so St. Francis would have been a couple of centuries before him.
Right.
So St. Francis wouldn't have filled in any census form, but his name and his Franciscan community live on, and maybe there's the important thing, not so much the census as the legacy of faith.
Yes, absolutely.
That we pass on is far better indeed. So he was living by the sea in a cave. When he was 20, he was joined by 2 companions for whom a chapel and 3 cells were built by the neighbours. And later others came and new foundations were made, and these friars were called Minims through humility and were approved by the Holy See in 1474 So I guess living in a cave by the sea, they must have been pretty minimalistic.
No, that's why they're
kind
called
of life.
minions.
So not minions, minims, as in minimum without the um.
Oh, right, right.
Maybe it comes from the Latin, I suppose. But I suppose kind of small or not accounted of much, let's say, of much worth. Maybe that's what that means.
Yes.
Anyway, that's the humility they sought to live. They underlined the monastic elements of the Franciscan ideal. Their charity and extreme austerity attracted many, and there was usually only one priest in each community, most of whom were a very limited education. So a very lowly kind of ministry there. And charity and extreme austerity. So austerity meaning a lot of self-denial going on, not much in the way of food, I would say. Very basic conditions, I'm sure, all around, and hardship. Amazing how people are attracted to that in a world laden with comfort.
Yes.
We have so much comfort now, we don't know how good we have it. Francis became famous for prophecy and miracles during his life. His last 25 years were spent in France, and Louis XI, mortally ill, specially requested his presence. That's King Louis, I presume. Francis was sent by the Pope and prepared Louis for death. He also helped to restore peace between France and Brittany and between France and Spain. And for a time he was a tutor to the future King Charles VIII. He died at Tours in France and was canonized in 1519, and artists who depicted him include Murillo, Velázquez and Goya, three very famous artists. Because many of his miracles were connected with the sea, he was declared patron of seafarers in 1943, particularly popular in Italy, France and Mexico. You are.
Beautiful.
France is a Paola, if I'm pronouncing it right at all. So yeah, Calabria. So another Francis after the footsteps of St. Francis.
That's wonderful, Father.
Frank Duff had this idea that he liked to be the fifth St. Francis, and I think Francis of Paola is one of the five he thought of. So it's Francis of Assisi,
Right.
Francis of Paola. Who were the others? There was two others. Francis de Sales.
Oh, yes.
That's another one.
Yes.
And the other Francis escapes me now at the minute. If anybody knows, text us in or email us in. What other St. Francis did Frank Duff have in mind? Wanting to be the fifth St. Francis, and I hope he will become the fifth St. Francis. But who's the fourth one?
Well, I don't know, Father.
Francis, not sure.
I'm saying there's hundreds of St. Francises that we don't know, Father.
There's probably a good few. Probably a good few is right. So very good. Speaking of great saints, St. Anthony's Brief, I got sent the magazine there. Do you get this at all, Roisin? It's a lovely little magazine.
Oh, yes, I was getting it at one stage, but I haven't got it for a while.
Does it come from Italy, or is it, I don't know, maybe it's in Galway. Maybe it's Irish.
Right,
There's an Italian edition that I know.
Well, I get the one from Italy, yes.
Okay, yeah. And it's lovely these magazines are still going strong, and there's some nice little spiritual reading in them. I see the Totus Tuus magazine came out as well. So that came out during the week again. Another sort of coffee table reading, I suppose.
Yes, it's wonderful to have, especially St. Anthony, Father.
Yeah, and that, while you're having a cup of tea there or a scone, you read through an article and have it there in front of you and pick up a little bit in relation to the missions or life in the church and so on. So, and the great work that's going on. Here's a lovely monastery of St. Clare, Franciscans again,
beautiful.
In Zimbabwe. And whoever this little sister is, she looks like she could do with a good dinner there. She's probably living austerity there again, But it's nice to get these magazines. We get sent them, and certainly as priests we get sent them lots of lovely pictures of the great work that was going on in missions around the world, and poor people being looked after and the sick being cared for.
Yes.
So whether you get the Far East or Africa, isn't that another magazine that comes out, the Kiltegan Fathers or the SMA Fathers too. These are great legacies and long-standing traditions of great magazines. Yes. And we've thought long since of having some kind of magazine program where we would kind of share the best of all these great publications, because there's a lot of work goes into editing and printing these things. Now Fiona Kiley does come on of a Friday of occasions to talk about the Totus Tuus magazine and the latest articles. And indeed some of the authors would be lovely to feature on the radio too.
Well, in the Irish Catholic Father, they had a beautiful picture of the Franciscan lovely that who sent off, I think it was 4 or 5 buses full of things over to Ukraine, and then they were going to bring children and families back to Ireland.
Oh wow!
That was
in the
this
buses.
week's.
All
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
all right. Is that our friend in?
Yeah, my young neighbour's child.
Yes,
Father Brian.
Father Brian Shorthall,
Yes,
that's right, yes.
Father Brian.
And I saw the little video of him on the Vatican page as well, in just telling the story of the same thing.
Yeah,
It's nice,
it's
and it's got
lovely
some
to see the
international
amount
coverage.
and the amount of men that were driving these.
All right.
It was fantastic. They were all there.
Good. Well, great ministry to the needy and the poor and the refugees at this time. So lovely to see that. You see, it's great to be informed of these things, because the secular sources of media, you don't get to hear these great stories of goodness, and of generosity and of self-sacrifice.
Yes,
There's so much of it, and that's why these magazines are just so valuable. They teach you what's really going on in the world, let's say, even in the face of conflict. So like the friars in the Ukraine there just features as a kind of a main story there. You see a friar standing in front of a bombed out tank and telling his story.
Yes.
I've seen a couple of videos as well online. Radio Harbour featuring the priest director from Radio Maria in the Ukraine, and one of them was suggesting that businesses are tentatively opening in Kiev. I don't know how they're managing, or what the situation on the ground. In the video, you don't get to see a lot of the city in the background. They're kind of limited now. They should really pan the camera around and give us a sense of how things really are. But his latest video, shows his face a little bit more hopeful looking, and not as sort of oppressed, let's say, as in recent weeks.
They're very brave people, Father. They are really Ukrainian people. They are.
So I'm not sure the exact current situation there, but at least I know Radio Maria is still going and still
going
doing its
strong,
part,
yes.
And that the church certainly, would stand by its people and seek to be a source and a channel of help to others as well.
Yes.
So
beautiful.
It's a great blessing, the gift of our faith and the possibilities of communicating and sharing not just the gospel, because it's not always about preaching in terms of theologizing.
Yes.
It's very practical a lot of the time. Very practical. So and that means simply caring for the poor, providing medicines for the sick, opening up schools and hospitals, even albeit sort of temporarily. So anything we give to the church like that to go through aid to the church in need, say, or Caritas is the official Vatican charity there. We know it's going through the church to the right hands, and that it will be multiplied.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they'll know how best to apply the resources there,
Beautiful.
So it's nice to get these little magazines full of nice spiritual insights, but also of news and
it's lovely to see
St.
Anthony, because I went to confession there the other day, Father.
Oh, good. Very good.
Because it was so ages since I got able to get to go, because there's no confessions open in the churches, but there's lovely priests on the altar, and he was telling me then a story about his granddad. So I told him, must have been about St. Anthony too, and I told him then about me in the hospital dying with St. Anthony, and he turned around and he said to me, God must have put you here for a reason then.
I'm pretty sure he did.
So I thought, my God, I wonder did he?
He did, of course. There's no question.
It was lovely.
Yeah, that's great, Roisin. Well done, because it's a nice reminder to our viewers and listeners to make sure with the closing weeks of Lent to get to confession.
Yes, well, he was sitting at the altar, the side of the altar. He wasn't in a little box or anything. And I saw one girl going up. So I said, gosh, he said, "That's confession." So I went over with my walking stick.
Good. Grab him while you can. Yeah.
It was lovely. And then I saw 2 other ladies behind me that we always stayed behind, and Dawn was there, the adoration and saying the rosary. And I said, "There's confession." Oh, great. And they
all legging up. Good.
So everybody was lucky to go,
Good. Fantastic. So let me encourage you, if you haven't yet put it on your list of things to do for Easter, make sure to get confession for sure. I was in the Franciscans myself this week as well, took the opportunity. The big Franciscan church in Liberty Street in Cork. There's two big communities. There's the Capuchins and there's the Franciscans themselves. Enormous great church. The Franciscan church is, I'd say, thousands could fit into it. But I was counting there's actually 13 confessionals up and down the sides of the church. 13 of them. Now, there's only one in use, obviously, at any given time. But there must have been mobs going to confession.
Oh, there was, Father. When I was growing up, there was always a queue outside, you know.
Oh. So have people stopped sinning, Roisin? Are they all so lovely and holy now?
I wish it was that.
I wish too. No, there's never been more of a need for that. No, never been more of a need. We'll take a little pause for a piece of music. Tara's very kindly selected Pie Jesu by Martin Janssen from his Requiem Novum. So please do text in to the email in. I see Catherine has suggested who the other St. Francis might be of the four we're looking for.
Oh.
So do please text in the number there, Roisin.
Or you can text in at WhatsApp or text in and WhatsApp 089 467 2000.
Please do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. So thanks for that. So now this lovely piece of music, Pie Jesu, and back very shortly. Thanks, Tara.
"30 seconds, Father, and then a quick jingle."
My name is Sister Veronica, and I'm a Franciscan Sister of the Renewal. I'm so grateful for Radio Maria Ireland. During the first lockdown, when all the masses were suspended overnight and none of us could get to Mass, we found out that Radio Maria had the Mass every single day here from the station, and we could listen to it even over the phone. We don't have internet at our convent, so we were able to pick up the phone every day, and as a group of sisters, it got us through the lockdown. I'm so grateful for Radio Maria.
There you are. Thanks very much for that. In fact, there's a phone call a little while ago from a lady who was listening to Mass over the phone. So that's how one of the other ways of listening to Radio Maria, not just through the digital means, and just delighted to be able to have the Mass on the phone. Yes. So true of the Franciscan sisters there as well. Lovely piece of music that should be added to our playlist there. Tara, if it's not already on the playlist, it's a beautiful piece there. So now welcome back. Thanks for your company here for our Chatechesis moment today. Catherine was in touch. She was wondering about, is there a St. Francis Borgia? And I was just looking at my dictionary of saints, and there is a St. Francis, this would be a female, St. Francis of Rome, who was born of a wealthy but pious family in the 14th century. So that's possibly the saint you're thinking of there, Catherine. But to deliver you of your inquisitiveness as to who the other saint might be, but you're right, Roisin, there's quite a few St. Francises. But Francis of Assisi, the Francis of Paola, I'm sure today, Francis de Sales, and the other famous Francis is St. Francis Xavier.
Oh, of course.
So perhaps they're the Francises that Frank Duff had in mind. Those people. He may have other I don't know, but, but he wants to be another St. Francis. So Pope Francis, he's working hard at his own journey too. Who knows? There are a lot of canonized popes, so who knows? Pope Francis comes in for a lot of controversy too. I got a lovely newsletter there, Roisin. Speaking of St. Anthony's brief on these lovely magazines, Gianna Kerr, who just do marvellous work. They said they had the pleasure of welcoming 28 new clients that they could see face to face in the month of February. So it's their February newsletter. And of course, with the lockdowns lifted, now they can finally meet and chat to women and help them. And 37 clients availed of our emotional support during the month, and over 17 clients received financial support and 30 practical support. So they got a picture of all the kind of baby things that they
need, and it's so important for them. Exactly, yes.
Absolutely fabulous. So while we're thinking maybe of international needs and all the great crises going on in the world, there's plenty of local needs as well.
Absolutely.
Local needs. There's a lovely little note there, if you'd like to read it, actually, Roisin, the Saved Baby Update. So it's a story of a mum there. Yeah. It's a nice little story.
I'll never forget the day I looked on the internet for some advice, and I found Gianna Kerr. I was sitting on my sofa, terrified about my future and how I was going to cope. Had found out a few days before that I was pregnant. I was in shock for days, then I became angry with myself, and then so scared. I was scared of raising another child, as I found parenting difficult already with my 2 children. To be honest, I didn't think I was good enough for them. I was also terrified to make the wrong decision to continue with the pregnancy or not. I made an appointment with Gianna Kerr, and 2 lovely ladies just listened to me. I didn't feel judged. I felt understood. I came out of that appointment feeling so much better and stronger to make a decision. I made a decision to continue with the pregnancy. At the time, I was afraid I would suffer with severe depression, again like I did after my 2 other children. But I was worried I would regret having an abortion, and regret is not something I can live with. I decided to be strong and have the baby. Gianna Kerr provided me with unbelievable support during my pregnancy. It overwhelms me now to know that there is people so supportive and caring. Baby Bethany is 6 weeks old. I love her so much, and if it wasn't for Gianna Kerr, the reality is she could not be here today, which is heartbreaking to think. The day she came into this world was the most wonderful day ever. I am so grateful for Gianna Kerr, more than words can say. Thank you. Oh, that's beautiful.
And a lovely little story.
Beautiful photograph of the baby.
Picture of the baby there as well.
Yes.
That's nice.
Oh, that's absolutely beautiful, Father.
So that's fabulous. It's like even if only one little baby can be saved and one mother helped.
Yes.
Absolutely marvellous. Great work altogether. Really encourage that. And it's just such a positive support. We'd love to see, the state stepping into that area and using taxpayers' money to do the very same to support mothers on the journey to giving birth to their child and giving them all that they need. We'd love to see that too, rather than just this very cold and very cruel option, as they call it, for destroying the baby's life. I mean, how does that make any sense to anybody? I just don't know. It's beautiful stories like that. What great consolation. So there's lovely women and men too, I think, involved in Gianna Care, and there to help mothers with child going through a crisis. Look them up on the internet and support them any way you can, and let them know. So there's another little scanned picture there. It's a beautiful scanned picture and quote from one of our lovely clients who wrote, "My feeling is better because I was talking to you both yesterday. I showed the new video to my boyfriend and he was very happy." This is of the baby in the womb. Looks probably about 12 weeks maybe. "Thank you so much for helping. I know now that I have a family. Thank you again. I would like to keep in touch with you going forward too." Lovely. So very, very grateful for that. It's nice to I like kind of subscribing to these things myself, because you get the news.
Yes.
You get the real news and what really matters.
What's happening, in the world. And it's badly needed, Father, unfortunately.
It is, and it's almost kind of like one soul at a time, really, isn't it, Roisin? Kind of one person at a time that we're trying to. We can't hope to solve the huge, big problems that are going on.
That's true too, and I often imagine, Father, people who would abort their babies, how they live with it afterwards.
I have no idea.
It must be just horrendous.
No idea. And yet there's a lovely lady. She's sick in hospital at the moment. We have her on our prayer list, Bernadette Goulding. If you heard her story, she's been on Radio Maria a few times in the past. She works with a group called Rachel's Vineyard, who help to bring healing to women who have, been hurt by abortion, and men too.
That's good.
But she herself went down that road and speaks of her regret, but is just poured her life and her energy into this whole ministry now, knowing that she can share her story and, help people back. So
it's really sad, Father.
It is. And when you see, since the legislation in this country was passed to introduce abortion, how many abortions? Over 13,000 is it since? And it's just a frightening statistic, because we're such a small country that we cannot but be related to some of those lives that have been lost. And what a great loss for our country, what a great loss for our families, a great loss for those mothers. So all our compassion and all our support should be poured out really to mothers who have to face this decision.
When it happens, Father, they don't know what the child will bring into their lives. So just don't look at the bad side of things, look at the good side of things.
Yeah, and that poor lady there, conflicted with feeling anger and feeling, not wanting to face depression. How could she cope, and a sense of unworthiness? All of these things, when in fact it seems in that situation, an expectant mother just needs somebody to journey with her, just to be there. To say, look, we can help.
Because it's really sad, Father, because, I don't know if I ever told you, I had 2 miscarriages, which were just horrendous. I never forget them. And then when my 4th child, the doctor told me I was pregnant, I sat in the garden. I didn't do a thing, move, anything.
Yes, for fear.
So I held on to Dr. Maeve.
Did you? Good, and thank God she's with you now and doing well.
Yes.
Thank God.
Yeah, so I know what it's like, Father, to lose a child, so it's not,
Sure.
It wasn't something I intended to do. It was, I don't know why it happened.
Sure, nature, sadly, sometimes, yes. That's one of the great mysteries, how the Lord, that this happens in nature. It's so difficult indeed for women and mothers. So our task then is to be there to support, and as I've often said, there's no neutrality or sitting on the fence when it comes to the pro-life question, that all of us should be doing something proactively to support the culture of life in whatever shape, size or direction that takes. But again, just to be there for mothers and their unborn, to be there for the elderly, to play our part courageously, to support in every which way. So that's why, again, getting those little regular updates and newsletters and these little things, I recommend that strongly, to send them a few bob and subscribe to them, their little newsletters, and get the real news that wonderful, heroic people are involved in these things, and to lift your spirits,
Absolutely.
instead of listening to the other stuff.
You're helping.
The other stuff would kind of wear you down. You'd feel like, you'd feel like putting a hurley through the screen of the television. At times.
The things that are happening,
And I remember distinctly the time when I decided I wasn't listening to the secular radio. So that's it. I'm done. So we have to decide to do these positive things, and certainly bring graces and blessings into our own lives as well as others too.
Absolutely.
So now we've come to the end of another Chatechesis today. Thank you for your company. It's nice to be back again. We'll be heading off to Banbridge later.
Oh, lovely, Father.
We'll get Roisin to sing a bit of Banbridge for us later on, maybe. Ceolachas Crack, we have her lined up there. So, in Banbridge Town in the County Down. So, look forward to that at 1 o'clock for Ceolachas Crack. We'll be at 5:30 Mass this evening, please God, in Banbridge. If you live anywhere near or round about, come on in. And with the morning masses too of the Sunday, please come and say hello, and we'll be glad to meet you as well. So looking forward to that trip now. Another promotion out the country. So north, south, east and west, we're horsing around all over the place. It was great. Thank God. So good. Thanks to Tara at the mixing desk. Thank you, Roisin.
Oh, thank you, Father. Thank you all for listening and for putting up with us.
God bless you all.
Me especially.
Well done. Well done. So we'll pause now for our Angelus and our midday prayers.